or literally microwaving our brains. I had people who would be like, I only wear one AirPod or whatever because I lost the other one, or I just wear one. And then it's like they start getting pain in one side of their head. And I'm like, well, if that's pain is there in that one side that you're wearing that AirPod, like it's not just from it going into your ear canal. It's like there's something more to it.
Welcome back to the Mold Show. I'm your host, Adam Horn. As always, I'm joined with my co-host, Sean McGrath.
What's up?
What's up, brother? Real quick intro. I am a state of Florida licensed mold remediator. Sean, state of Florida, and probably other state a licensed mold assessor.
Just Florida right now. We just travel everywhere. It doesn't require the licensing. Hopefully Texas soon. We'll see.
Right. And we put together this weird podcast where we talk about mold. Today, we're joined by Jonathan Farrar from JF Healthy Homes. Jonathan, what's up, man? Welcome to the Mold Show.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate you, and blessed to be here, guys.
Tell us a little about yourself. You know, it's a rolling joke where people make fun of us for having a show talking about mold. So what brought you to us? Tell us about the background and why you're here talking about mold with us today.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've been following the show, man. I love it. I just love the content. I love the vibes. And I know like mold is just such a conflicting and serious topic. So it's awesome to be able to have people who just kind of open up that Pandora's box in a good way and try to quell some of that, uncertainty and fear and stuff that's around it. So I got into it just from being super ill myself, my family being super ill. Just through that kind of learned all about EMF and mold, toxins in the environment and how those all play into our overall toxin burden and the symptoms that come from that. From there, long story short, got into building biology, went to Building Biology Institute and pursued some certifications with them. And then I just recently became a CRMI, Certified Residential Mold Inspector with ACAC. So that's like my two-year mark. So Tennessee definitely not as strict with the licensing and all that as they should be, as most states should be. But yeah, that's why I'm here, and I'm so blessed to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yep, absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you just told us how you got into it, but a little bit about that experience you and your family had that led you down this rabbit hole, Jonathan? Because a lot of people in our industry, especially on the medical side of things, they've had their own story, and you're starting to see more and more people get into the inspection and remediation side that have had their own mold journey. So if you could talk a little bit about that and share your experience for our community, that'd be great.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, it is. I was actually just having that conversation with someone too about how like it seems like most people who get into this line of work and who do like the good work, I guess we'll say, or like do the proper things are the ones who have been super ill and kind of like fought their way out of that. So I think it's like a whole pursuit of the soul, the body, the mind, everything, right? It's not just a job or a career to say the least. But yeah, I grew up in California. And ever since I could remember, I had a lot of issues, eczema, depression since I was super young, all these issues, right? And I remember in this house growing up, there was like water staining, like nice, beautiful house, but we all know that doesn't mean anything with mold, doesn't mean anything to mold. So water staining, all that kind of stuff. Always just thought it was fine. Allergies, all these different things, food allergies. And then kind of the ultimate thing that system was the EMF that was introduced into the environment. And I won't go down that rabbit hole too much because I know this is the mold show. But there is.
I do want to get into that in a little bit though, John. Because
because it's a common thing that comes up
Awesome.
with lots of the people that we get exposed to. EMF it seems to be on that list of things which are causing issues.
100%, man. I'm like, you say EMF, I say less, man. I'm on it. So that's kind of where I started, right? They put in solar panels. I was about 24. I'm 35 now. I was about 24, 25 at the time. Health completely tanked. Went from doable living to like just completely couldn't sleep. Amped up all the time, anxiety, rage, suicidal ideation, like all these terrible, terrible things, man. I wish upon not the worst enemy in the world. And so I started like going down the medical route. I started taking all these things that I know I shouldn't have taken now. And none of that was providing relief. It was just like Band-Aids, you know what I mean? And I won't go down that route too much either. But I guess intuitively, or maybe through God or divine intervention, like I started getting like little bits of hints to like what could be causing this, right? And that's when I started kind of like my journey with EMF. And I started measuring and come to find out like the solar panels were causing a massive reaction in my room, massive EMF fields in my room. And that was aggravating all the Marcons I had, aggravating all these different things. Dr. Thoring, one of the great doctors I saw around that time, about 10 years ago, had tested me for Marcons and all that. So I started CSM like around that time, 10 years ago. But that it was just like almost too much for my body to handle, to excrete through those, even like CSM or Welcol or any of those things, right? And then I had like Lyme, I had co-infections, and I had like the whole plethora of things going on. Then I took a year of travel, and I came back just backpacking. I came back. I had a horrific parasite, so that was playing into the whole toxin load too. And again, my health was just completely tanked.
Sounds like the better question would be, Jonathan, what
Yep.
didn't you deal with?
Man, it was like everything, brother. I had like floaters in the eyes. I had the depression, the suicide. Like it was, and like now I know it's SIRS, right? Like 100%. It was a lot of SIRS reaction and MCAS and all those things. But at that time, I was just like, I'm just depressed. Like it just is what it is. I'm just like a sad 20-year-old angsty musician. Like I was in bands and stuff at that time too. So I was touring a lot. But I didn't ever think like this is mold until, yeah, I started praying a lot. And I guess through that, like I just started uncovering pieces, and I was like, I can't live just medicating the rest of my life if this is how I'm going to feel forever. Like it's not a sustainable way to live, you know? And that's where my journey kind of started. I started understanding a lot more about EMF primarily. Got out of that house. We moved to Tennessee about 3 years ago. So that was about, yeah, 3 years ago. And then moved into this house I'm in now. Moved into a house full of Stachybotrys. And that took us about a year to figure out. So like the EMF stuff, anxiety, like the depressive side was better, but I was getting a lot of allergies, getting like more headaches, brain fog. Another one I didn't mention, probably from having brain fog. I didn't remember. Chronic fatigue, inflammation, all that got a lot worse. And then I had my baby. She was 6 months old at the time. Like completely eyes swollen shut, ear infections, all these things, man, that just like wrenched my soul. And I couldn't figure it out until I hired local people, man, who are like mold inspectors. Waste of money. Hired even some bigger companies that I won't name. And then, yeah, man, I ended up just teaching myself how to do it out of frustration and just like straight up just desperation. I was like, I have to figure out what's going on in this house, and found Stachybotrys on both sides of this whole house, from poor WRB insulation, lack of WRB, lack of flashing. And we just went through like a year and a half remediation and rebuild. That's for the whole kitchen area. So during that time, I started building biology to add more to it. But that's when I was like, I need to like educate myself. I need to learn what's going on with buildings, why this is happening. So from California to Tennessee to freaking the Sahara to the to Antarctica, like it's everywhere. So like, what's the problem? Like I know it's not just mold is the problem. Like there's an underlying factor, and it's the buildings. It's the way we're built. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Doing much better now, but not perfect.
Good.
Well, I mean, you've experienced it in my world, like those you talked about music. Those the musicians who have experienced the pain are typically the ones that are you feel the most. And so who better to help people deal with these issues than somebody who's dealt with them. And it's you just have the built-in empathy because you see yourself in their eyes, I'm assuming.
Yep, 100%, man. All right, have you guys? I'm assuming you guys both went through the similar or same.
No, I'm the black sheep in this industry. I came through the restoration side of the industry. Actually, the insurance side of it. I was an insurance adjuster, pretty much straight out of college, and then got into the property side. I was a property insurance adjuster. This is before there was a mold industry. There was no mold licensure. There was no, back in the bleach and paint days, which is how most projects were handled throughout at least most of modern history. And then got into the restoration field after being on the insurance side for 10 plus years. And even then, it was more on the water and fire side of things. There was no real focus on remediation. at least here in this state. And that didn't, I'd heard about the New York City guidelines, and there was stuff that I'd heard about when I was an adjuster, but nothing that locked water damage companies into doing things with any specific skill outside of, tearing it out or bleaching it, just the normal sanitization methods that companies have been using. And so went from drying structures to being one of the first guys in the state to have a remediator's license, and I've learned a ton over the years in regards to that world. So mine was more of a practical education, being out there in the field and getting better as the years have gone on, to the point now, for I think the past almost 10 years now, all I do is mold. I'm a specialist. I don't do any of the emergency services stuff anymore in the industry. Not that, occasionally things will fall in my lap that if I've helped other clients and things like that. But now I'm just a mold specialist. So
Amazing.
That's how I got into this world. And I'm sure, I'm like most men. I've ignored all the symptoms, run from them, and I've had lots of different issues from physical to mental health issues over time, and I'm sure there's been major contributing factors, because I have been in a lot of contaminated buildings, a lot, from water, black water, lots of black water losses, exposure to sewage and things of that nature, to tons of fire jobs, which are typically also water losses, because if the fire department comes in there, they soak it down, then it sits until arson investigation or fire investigation occurs. And so most fire jobs turn into mold projects. And so hundreds and hundreds of buildings, commercial, residential, buildings, I've had the good fortune or misfortune of having been in over time, because insurance adjusters don't wear PPE, or at least we didn't back then, so it's been an education. When Sean was talking to me about you coming on here, he joked about AirPods or Bluetooth headsets. But I was thinking about it the other day, because I heard that Apple's starting to sell the wired headsets again, and it's like is it trendy? You see.
I'm gonna call you out in a little bit, Adam.
Yeah, I know you are.
Are those wired? Oh no, there's a wire on there. Cool.
No, yeah, these are wired.
Yeah, I know. You guys are good. It would have been fun if we all came on with AirPods though, and then
yeah.
I should have done that. Come on with AirPods and talk about how bad EMFs are.
But yeah, it was a little bit more of a natural progression into the mold industry for me as well. We started off like your local mold inspector that I'm sure you explained a little while ago that you had help you, Jonathan. A few years in, we were lucky enough to, I shouldn't say lucky enough, but we were kind of looking at some of our clients being told the same thing. You're crazy. There's no reason why you're sick. It's all in your head. But the one thing they all had in common is they all had mold in their house. They all had significant mold issues in their home. So we naturally saw that, put the pieces of the puzzle together. We had already had some colleagues that were going to medical conferences. It kind of introduced us to some of those. So we were able to go and collaborate with, I shouldn't say collaborate, but learn from some of these other practitioners, health coaches, functional medicine doctors, learn what they're seeing from clients, and also share with them what we're seeing in homes, and just had this natural education through that. And that helped us think outside the box as well with our inspection process, our testing process. The last, I would say 8 to 10 years now, really focused just on health-based inspections and testing to help people. So along the way, have had really close friends and family go through it though. So it has hit really close to home and affected us in that sense. But luckily for our family, me personally, haven't been affected. But people that are really close to us have gone through some really tough times. And you know how it is when you love people and people that are close to you go through that. It might as well be you as well. I mean, you're trying to carry that emotional burden, if you will.
100%, man. God bless both of you guys for the work you do and for getting into it and helping so many people, man.
Likewise.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's immune to buildings that have exposures to moisture and water damage.
Yeah.
It whether you're symptomatic or not, I think we've all learned along the way that you probably shouldn't have exposures to these things. And now that more people have come out, more people are talking about it, I think it's spreading awareness. You've got fear mongering like you do in everything, and in some cases I get it. I understand people's fears as they're associated. I would be fearful if my babies were symptomatic or something. Like, of course you want to do everything you can, including run from your environment if you've been exposed. And so there's people who had issues all along the spectrum, from those who don't care to those who are can't stop thinking about it, everywhere else in between. But we appreciate you coming on to talk about your journey with it, and now where you're at with like us, helping people, spreading awareness, helping them figure out how do I get a hold of this problem, and how do I avoid it coming back in the future.
So, can we segue into maybe what some of those local inspectors that you feel they miss, or some of the ways, and again, we don't have to name names, but you feel like you weren't served correctly to properly guide you guys through your process, through your journey, and how that's kind of impacted how you approach your business?
Yeah, 100%, man. I think a lot of it is just like not having the knowledge or the training or the experience dealing with like the medical side of it, right? I think it's more so just like dealing with mold as mold and not really all the things that are associated with that health wise. I think there's some knowledge of it, but it's not as extensive as like we've kind of immersed ourselves in like the SIRS community and all these different communities that are doing amazing things. But, they're linking these biotoxins to so many illnesses. So, I think part of it's that. I think part of it is maybe not taking it as seriously as it should be taken, and then like a lot of testing modalities, I think are very overlooked, or they're used improperly or not being used. Like in my case, right, it was Stachybotrys, so super heavy, dense, sticky mold. Like that was never going to be picked up on an air sample, and that's like
Mhm.
pretty much what I'm hearing coming after these people, time and time again for clients now, is that they just come in using the same process, air samples every whatever feet, and then just sending it to them, and no advocacy, right? Like, no, like, hey, you're still sick, but like, there's nothing picked up on these air samples, so let me come dig further. I think it's like the whole process of involving yourself with the client. It's not just a one-time thing. Like, I constantly go back to client's house where I'm like, hey, I saw this ERMI picked up this, like I have a correlation here, or maybe I'm missing something. Let me keep looking because there's obviously something here that we're not seeing yet. So I think that whole like the whole journey with the client is missing. And like from what I hear, these people, I mean, my experience even, they're here for like an hour and a half maybe. And I'm like, dude, that's not enough time to like look at a 2,800 square foot house and determine if there's mold behind walls or anything like that. And so I think like a lot of it is, to Adam's point, like the old school way of doing things, right? The bleach approach, but with testing, right? Where it's like, this is how we do it. This is how we've always done it. The tests can't lie. The tests are correct. It takes no discernment from me on the testing. It'll give me everything I need to give the client a clear answer. And that's just so completely incorrect in my opinion, and being proven right time and time again, unfortunately. So yeah.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. Couldn't agree with you more there. Um, yeah, the one thing that really always disappoints me is when you can tell when you go behind somebody, you could tell the last inspection was rushed, because I think I told Adam there was an inspection the other day. Walking in, the property had already been inspected twice within the last month. All I had to do was move a table out of the way, find visible growth, all the way the length of a wall. So it literally just took
Sean,
moving a table to find
mold doesn't grow behind tables, man.
it. Yeah,
It blocks it, dude. It's a barrier.
yeah,
That's something people don't know. So
I know, insane. But
The table trick.
and I love the relationship aspect you mentioned too, Jonathan. That's one thing we try really hard at, because we're human. We don't have X-ray vision. There's only so much we can do. I mean, even with the mold dogs, we see all the time where dogs miss stuff, and they're only as good as their handler. They're only as good as the inspector handling them. So if they don't move a bed out of the way, a dog might not be able to sniff back behind a bed. So same thing. But by creating those relationships, I think Andrea made that point, Adam, when we had her on last month, we want to be able to come back and help somebody and give them confidence that we're going to stick with them to the long run to get them through that journey. So
Yep.
I love that you have that attitude as well.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, it is. You really have to kind of involve yourself with them and their journey, because it's not just a one and done thing. Like EMF, on the other hand, pretty easy to mitigate most times, but with mold, it's a painful ongoing process. And yeah, to your point, Sean, like I see that a lot of times too. It's like literally right next to a washing machine. I just pull it to the right, two inspectors there too, and there's the freaking chetomium all over the wall, and I'm just like, guys, it's a wet room. Like, it's pretty obvious that it would have been right here, or like people not going in crawl spaces, not going in attics, or just overlooking things. And it's like you said, we're human, we make mistakes. I'm not claiming to be like I'm 100% accurate all the time. I find every speck of mold behind a wall, because we just can't. Like that's just, unless we sample every wall, which we're not going to do. And even then, right, it's just a tool. Like everything is just a tool, like the mold dogs. But yeah, it's a whole process, and the experience and going through that with the client.
Yeah, and that's where experience matters. Especially if you work alongside remediators and understanding, okay, you said wet room. It's nice to hear somebody say wet room, because that's kind of how I identify rooms in a building. A laundry room's a wet room, bathroom's a wet room, kitchen's a wet room. Like where is your plumbing? Where AC closets are wet rooms. You should be focusing extra attention on those spaces, because the likelihood of having an exposure in that area is so much higher. And maybe you don't know about it, but the previous owner or the previous owner. So it's worth looking deeper in those areas. It's worth moving the washer and dryer out of the way, so you can get a bit more aggressive with your sampling methodologies, so you can gain more information. And even then, not every wall is framed the same way. There's so many variations between what you're going to get in what space, what materials are behind, the wall, how many plies of materials are you dealing with. There's lots of variables. So experience does matter. And I see it, because I get reports from different assessors, and I get the 1-page report, and I got the 179-page report. So, yeah, you can go to Waffle House, and get a steak, or you could go to Ruth Chris and get a steak. There's a difference. So, I'm glad to hear you say, that you take that methodical approach, because I think that's what's missing in some cases. People rushing in and rushing out. They're doing people a disservice if that's your approach.
Agreed, brother.
Well, I do want to get into EMF while we have you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we're all in a little bit of a time crunch today. But for those that don't know, which a lot of people in the mold community do, because they have sensitivities to it, but those who might not, what is EMF, and why does knowing how much is in a home matter?
Awesome. I love it, man. Yeah, so EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, they're referred to commonly. In building biology, we call it EMR, which is electromagnetic radiation, a little bit more expansive and fitting to the actual frequency wavelength, right? So they're anything, it comes in different forms, but what we're most familiar with is anything that emits Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, and a lot of things now that have both of those hotspots. Those are emitting devices, so that would be radio frequency. And then we have electric fields, so anything from wiring in the house is spitting out 6 to 8 feet at all times, and typically grounding onto us. So those are electric fields, right? Anything coming off electricity, off of plugs, off of cables, all of that, unless it's shielded, which we'll get into if y'all want to. And then we have magnetic, right, which is the 50, 60 hertz that our grid is on. But it's anything that can be from circling around a wire, the current on the wire, or if there's wires that are close together but separated slightly, it'll create a bigger concentric circle or bigger magnetic field. And then it also happens in any sort of appliance that we plug in. Typically, a lot of things that have motors in them create high magnetic fields, right? The current that's running through there. So electric fields you can think of as voltage, 120 volts running through our wiring. That's the voltage. And then the current is the magnetic field. And then, of course, within that, we have dirty electricity, or what we call microsurge electrical pollution. And that comes in two forms. There's field dirty electricity and contact dirty electricity. That you can think of as, if you think of the wiring as 120-volt sine wave that our power is on, right? They're transients from 2 kilohertz to 100 kilohertz that are backloaded from our appliances or come from recycled energy, because we're on a grid that goes house to house to house, that are on that sine wave and disrupting it and making it very kind of hairy and very obnoxious to our bodies. And that's on our wiring most times, right? And you can measure that in millivolts with a plug-in meter. And then there's other things like this light that I have right in front of me that's probably emanating a lot of field dirty electricity from it, which you can literally pick up with an AM/FM radio and hear it. And that's, so we're under a constant barrage of frequency, man-made frequency, that our bodies were never meant to be exposed to, and they're just wreaking havoc on us. And we're pushing the envelope year after year, day after day, to higher frequencies. And as we amp up those higher frequencies to the 5th generation, not 5G, what people call 5G, they confuse with 5 gigahertz a lot of times. 5G is actually multi-band, right? So we have all the way down from the megahertz all the way now up to 60 gigahertz, which is insanely high. So they say that's 5-band, high band 5G that has not really been activated or enabled yet. But yeah, we're up against it, to say the least. So without getting too in the